Okay, I want to continue reading the Gospel of Mark. And this is from the Douay-Rheims Catholic Version of the Bible, okay? So chapter 2. Christ heals the sick of the palsy, calls Matthew, and excuses his disciples. And again, he entered into Capernaum after some days. And it was heard that he saw in the house, and many came together, so that there was no room, no, not even at the door. And he spoke to them the word. And they came to him, bringing one sick of the palsy, who was carried by 4. And when they could not offer him unto him for the multitude, they uncovered the roof where he was, and opening it, they let down the bed wherein the man sick of the palsy lay. And when Jesus had seen their faith, he said to the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sins are forgiven thee. And there were some of the scribes sitting there, and thinking in their hearts, Why does this man speak thus? He blasphemeth. Who can forgive sins but God only? Which Jesus, presently knowing in his spirit that they so thought within themselves, saith to them, Why think you these things in your hearts? Which is easier, to say to the sick of the palsy, Thy sins are forgiven thee, or to say, Arise, take up thy bed, and walk? But that you may know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins, he saith to the sick of the palsy, And I say to thee, Arise, take up thy bed, and go into thy house. And immediately he rose, and taking up his bed, went his way in the sight of all, so that all wondered and glorified God, saying, We never saw the like. And he went forth again to the seaside, and all the multitude came to him, and he taught them. And when he was passing by, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, this is Matthew, sitting at the receipt of custom. I think he was a tax collector, yes. And he saith to him, Follow me. And rising up, he followed him. This is Matthew, who was also called Levi, and I said he was a tax collector, right? So that's why he was at the custom, meaning that's where they collected money. And it came to pass that as he sat at meat in his house, Matthew's house, many publicans and sinners sat down together with Jesus and his disciples, for they were many who also followed him. And the scribes and the Pharisees, seeing that he ate with publicans and sinners, said to his disciples, Why does thy master eat and drink with publicans and sinners? Jesus, hearing this, said to them, They that are well have no need of a physician, but they that are sick. For I came not to call the just, but the sinners. And the disciples of John and the Pharisees used to fast. And they came to say to him, Why do the disciples of John and of the Pharisees fast, but they disciples do not fast? And meaning John the Baptist. And Jesus said to them, Can the children of the marriage fast as long as the bridegroom is with them? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. Excuse me, let me say that again. As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. And Jesus, of course, is saying that he's the bridegroom. But the days will come when the bridegroom, which is him, shall be taken away from them, and then they shall fast in those days. No man seweth a piece of raw cloth in an old garment. Otherwise, the new piecing taketh away from the old, and there is made a greater rent, meaning a greater cut. And no man putteth new wine into old bottles. Otherwise the wine will burst the bottles, and both the wine will be spilled, and the bottles will be lost. But new wine must be put into new bottles. And it came to pass again, as the Lord walked through the cornfields on the Sabbath, that his disciples began to go forward and to pluck the ears of corn. And the Pharisees said to him, Behold, why do they on the Sabbath day that which is not lawful? They're not supposed to do work on the Sabbath. And he said to them, Have you never read what David did when he had need and was hungry himself, and they that were with him? how he went into the house of God under Abiathar, the high priest, and did eat the loaves of proposition, which was not lawful to eat, but for the priests, and gave to them who were with him. And he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath also. So in this chapter, that's the end of chapter 2, we see, a few things. Jesus is, he calls Matthew, he heals a man, and this is a picture of it here, who's actually on his bed, he's paralyzed, and his friends lower him down because they couldn't get him in the door because so many people were listening to Jesus. And he forgave him his sins, and he's saying that the sins were the source of his paralysis. Of course, the Pharisees were annoyed. What gave Jesus the right to do that? But he calls himself the Son of Man, and he has the right to do that. And then he talks about, how he came to call the sinners, because Matthew hung around with some crooked people, and how to make these sinners should change. And that's why he talks about new wineskins, becoming a new person. Because Jesus called people to repentance, and repentance just means to change. You're living one way, it's the wrong way. Live a different way. That's what he called people to do. And then he talks about the Sabbath, and how the Sabbath is not something that, a man is a slave to. You're hungry, so you have to pick food to eat, even if it's on the Sabbath, even though you're not supposed to do work. So that's what Jesus said. Okay? That's just my little commentary for what it's worth. Okay, look for the next video, and I will do chapter 3. Have a great day. Bye-bye.